Meet Dina. She grips the steering wheel tighter as the phone buzzes in her cup holder. At a red light, she glances down and sees a text appear on the screen from her daughter. "How far are you? We've been waiting." Her stomach sinks. She should have left the office an hour ago, but one simple email turned to another, and now she's running late for dinner with her kids again. Dina is the senior director for customer service at a fast-growing software company, a role that requires her to do a lot. And she's up for it. Dina delivers. She works endless hours. She'll be on endless meetings, and she holds the belief that her worth comes from being everywhere and doing everything. Dina was like this even before her husband passed. And now, with 2 grown kids and a life that's waiting for her outside of the office, she doesn't know how to slow down. Most days, Dina forgets to eat lunch. She exercises regularly, but still feels exhausted. She takes Spanish classes, does cello on the weekends, has a passion for wanting to build her own consulting business, on top of the spotlight of work that takes up so much of her time. And what Dina wants is more calm and more clarity in her life. She wants to be able to pursue those passions without sacrificing her own health or time with her kids. It feels like she's always sprinting, and Dina is getting tired of always running. Today, I'm speaking with Maura Thomas, who's ranked among the top 10 time management professionals in the world. She's a TEDx speaker and author of 6 books. Maura teaches leaders and teams that true productivity is not about managing time. It's about managing attention. And her empowered productivity system helps people to reclaim their focus, reduce stress, and accomplish more of what truly matters. And I'm excited to hear how Maura would help someone like Dina to slow down, to reclaim her attention, and to create a life that's not just full, but is fulfilling. My name is Jay Abbasi, and welcome to Unstuck. Real people, real stories, real solutions. While the details are changed to protect anonymity, what you just heard is based on a true story of challenges that come up in the real world. And we discuss how to navigate these environments with practical tips to help you get unstuck and build a more fulfilling, impactful, and balanced life and career. So Maura, I was reading about you and I learned that there was a time in your life, I think it was in the 90s, where you became really interested in finding strategies that truly elevate people's effectiveness. And it became something where, I don't want to say obsessed in a bad way, but it seems like you got really, really invested in it. And that got me curious. What motivated that? What's the story behind why you pursued how to help people be more effective?
Yeah, actually, it wasn't some sort of magical catalyst that led me to this. It really was happenstance. My first job out of college was for a company that sold paper-based planners and training to go with the planners. And so right from the jump, I learned about what they taught and kind of all about the world of productivity. And so I went to many of their trainings and just sort of was steeped in that world of how to be most effective and how to accomplish more of what's important. And I worked there for a decade, and my last job there I held for about almost 4 years, and that was director of marketing. And so it was my job to learn about what everyone else in the world was teaching, because this company was global, offices in 43 countries around the world. And so it was my job to learn about what everyone was teaching in the world of like time management and productivity and effectiveness, so that we could sell against them essentially, and you know, kind of learn what was going on. So I read all the books, I saw all the speakers. um I went to a million different trainings, and twice a year I sat around a table with 42 peers from around the world, hearing about what was going on in their countries, about how to make people more effective. And so I got this insanely deep and detailed knowledge about how to make people, really, it's not about making unproductive people productive. It's really about how to achieve the same levels of success that all of my clients have, or greater, because I work with very productive, very successful people, but how to lower the cost of that success to them, much like the story of your client that we're going to talk about. How can you achieve this level of success at a lower cost to you?
Yeah. And Maura, I would imagine that with all that information that you gathered, there were probably things that you were like, ooh, I find myself falling into that pattern
Yeah.
where I'm maybe not as effective or productive. Like, did that often happens for me? So, what did you notice about yourself from gathering all of this education and information about productivity and effectiveness?
Oh, I mean, every day. So, what I have learned is that it is a journey, not a destination, and every day is like a new day to try to try this. And what I have found is that when I have found myself the most disorganized, the most stressed, working the longest hours, it's because I'm not following some aspect of my own system. And
Mm.
so it often comes out because my husband now is my business partner. And so often it comes out, either he will point it out to me, or I will say to him, "Oh my God, I have so much going on." And um, he'll often say something to me like, "Well, when was the last time you did some part of the system, right? When was the last time that you did a weekly update, or have you downloaded your stuff into your task list, or um, did you organize your projects the way that we teach?" And it never fails that I'm like, "Of course not. Of course I haven't. Of course I've totally fallen off the wagon. Didn't even realize it until this stress kicked in." And then I'm like, "Yeah, well, maybe I should follow my own advice and things will get a little easier." And I hear that from my clients all the time. It's like, "Oh, I was on vacation for 2 weeks and now I've come back to this, and I'm just back to, just trying to keep my head above water, and there hasn't even been time to catch up on the backlog. And so I've totally fallen apart." And so, but that's the beauty of having a workflow system, or a personal operating system, or whatever you want to call it. It's that it's repeatable, and there is a process. You're not reinventing the wheel every day. There's a proven process. And not only is it proven with my 40,000 clients all over the world, but it's been proven to me. If you're using my system, it's been proven to you. And so it's like, oh yeah, if I just get back to doing what I'm supposed to do, everything gets easier.
Yeah, yeah, and at times it's application of something that's quite simple at times. It's not overly complex. I appreciate what you said about the client who 2 weeks on vacation and it feels like they're falling apart. I had that exact thing just recently. We were just before we started recording talking about travel, and I had 2 weeks of travel and I felt it. I felt like when I got back, I was out of my system and I had to reorganize everything and restructure everything. And I know that you often talk about ways where you can be more aware of symptoms. And for example, like if we fall into burnout, rather than wait until we burn out and then respond to it, right? There are some symptoms that we can look for, some signs. So, what are your thoughts on that? Like, how can people be better at recognizing those symptoms?
Yeah. And um yeah, a lot of times it's even worse than we don't do anything about it. It's more that we do recognize it, but then we tell ourselves a story about how it's necessary. and how like this is just the way the world is, or this is just what my job requires, or this is just the way it has to be, because who would do this if they didn't have to, right? But the answer is everybody does. A lot of people do it when they don't have to, but it's the common like I don't have time to get organized thing, right? It's so it's to answer your question, it's usually when people start to feel a little spicy about their work, right? A little like, I'm kind of annoyed that I have to jump back on the laptop at 9 o'clock tonight. I'd really rather not, but there's this thing I have to do or whatever. My boss just emailed me or whatever it is. And we start to feel a little annoyed. We maybe start to snap a little bit, snap at people, right? A little bit, or we just sort of like, oh my God, I don't even care if this gets done, right? Or those kinds of course we do care, but that's right. Or we're feeling like, oh, I can't believe that I'm in this place again, right? Or whatever those feelings are. But those are symptoms of burnout, but we don't recognize it as symptoms of burnout. We just sort of say like, I mean, and it's true, like nobody loves their job 100% of the time. But the most common reason for most like knowledge staff, office staff, the most common reason for feeling that annoyance or that like spiciness is simply because we haven't had a break.
Yeah.
Too much work. And
Yeah.
so and you can't get a fresh perspective on something you never step away from.
Yeah.
Right. So recognizing when we start to have that feeling, if we start to think about like, when was the last time I truly disconnected for more than, the 7 hours that my eyes were closed in my bed. And a lot of times when I ask my clients that, they're like, I have no idea. Couldn't tell you the last time I
Yeah.
truly disconnected, because for most people, I talk about defining words in your culture. Like we all toss words around and we assume that everybody knows what they mean, but everybody has a different version of what they mean, or we know what they're supposed to mean, but what do they really mean here? One of those words is vacation. In most companies, for many employees, especially the senior leadership team, vacation means working somewhere else.
Mm.
And
I think
right.
I think oftentimes too it could mean escaping from work. Like it's not even like for example, what I think would be one healthy definition of a vacation is time for me to connect with family, recharge, time to be able to step away so that I can come back and be fully energized. What often is I'm just escaping from the craziness and the chaos and trying to get away from it, knowing that when I go back, I step right into the storm. So I appreciate what you're saying here, which is how are you defining such a word? What is the meaning you're giving it?
Yeah. And yeah, and what I'm curious to know is when you say the definition for me is escaping it, do you mean like I'm escaping the typical environment and going to do work somewhere else? Or at least I am on vacation, but I'm just going to check in I'm just going to spend like the first hour every morning. I can't tell you how many times I hear this. Just like an hour every morning, because that makes me feel better that everything's handled and there are no problems, right? So I just spend an hour checking in with the office, skimming through my emails, and then I can go enjoy the rest of the day. But really, what that means is that you're not, in fact, on vacation at all, because now your brain is still spinning about all the things. And it's like, I just want to make sure everything's okay. What if it isn't okay? Right. Now you're spinning about that, and you get no disconnection. And so CEOs tell me all the time, like, I can't, it stresses me out to be away. And really what I say to that is, you're a control freak and you need to start trusting your team. Like, your business is never going to grow beyond you if you can't get over that feeling.
I appreciate that you brought it back to control, because that's what it is about, right? It's about wanting to be in control and micromanaging a lot of the time all the specifics about the business. I would say this, it really depends on how you're processing this. So my wife and I, Maura, like what we'll do is we'll go on a vacation, and at times she and I together in the bed will open our laptops and we will do a little bit of work, but it's not because I'm trying to control everything. It's because I actually enjoy it. Like I like it. Like it's not because I'm worried. It's not fueled by stress. And if it is, then I agree with you, right? You need to be able to work through that. I do it because I love what I do, and I love being able to, you know, engage with my clients and being able to be there for my team, and to do it in a way where I'm not trying to control them. I'm just letting them know that I'm there for a little while, but then I could turn it off and be able to get to the beach and not think about it for the rest of the day.
Okay. If you say so, Jay.
Yeah, because but I guess how are you responding to it, right?
Yeah.
If it's in a state of resistance, then you're absolutely right. Like, in which I think a lot of the time it is. It's like I'm doing it because of a tug of a fear, of a worry, versus it's something that is helping actually make my day even better while I'm on vacation. Not like making me feel, oh, if I didn't do it, I'm worried. You get what I'm saying?
I totally understand what you're saying, um, but you can't get a fresh perspective from something you never step away from. And the research indicates that even if you love it, you will be better at it if you disconnect from it for
Right.
extended periods of time on a relatively frequent basis. I mean, at least weekends, if not, right? Even aside, like evenings, weekends, but also vacations. Um,
Sure.
even
Is
if you
there is
love your job, what I like to tell my clients, sometimes the best thing you can do for your work is not work.
And how frequently do you, is, because you said the research, I'm curious, you said weekends. Is there any recommended amount of time to be able to step away and completely disconnect?
100% there is. So I did a deep dive into this, and kind of the collection of research shows that um, that the optimal amount of work on average for your mental health, for your physical health, and for your productivity is on average 38 to 45 hours per week. Now, we all have crunch times, right? We all have times where we have to put in extra, but the longer hours, the longer weeks should then at some point be followed by shorter weeks. Or right, like take Fridays off for the next couple of weeks because I know you've been burning the midnight oil or whatever it is, right? Because otherwise it's just constant work, and productivity is shown to fall off a cliff around 55 hours a week. So even though it feels like you're doing better, that the detriments far outweigh the benefits of putting the work in. But we have all these stories, right? It'll be easier for me tomorrow if I just jump on Sunday night, or if I just, catch up on these emails now, then I won't have to do it later, and that, right? Or my job requires that I'm connected all the time, right? We have all these stories that we tell ourselves, and in most cases they are stories, right? But we don't take those stories out of our head and look at them and examine them and say, is this really true? Do I really believe this? And even if it is true, is there a way to achieve the same goal at a lower cost to me?
Yeah. Well, I do think, there's this, it's a belief, like you said, Mara. And I've I've done time audits. You ever do like a full time audit?
Sure.
Like where you, yeah, yeah. And I got surprised at the last one I did. I think I clocked in at like between 30 and 35 hours in a week. And I was like, oh, that's pretty good.
Pretty good. That's great.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I thought I worked more than that. And, I'm running my own business at 30 to 35 hours a week.
Mhm.
And I'm curious to learn more about you in regards to, you mentioned the terms and definitions. And I know that you use a different term than time management.
I do.
Can you tell us about that?
I can, yes. So I think that this phrase time management is not only not helping us, I think it's actually holding us back, because we've always known that you can't manage time. And so the techniques of time management are pretty much, I mean, one of the primary techniques is like scheduling your day, right? Planning your day. What am I going to do today? And when am I going to do those things? And there is a time and place for time blocking for sure. But our days never go according to plan. They're very dynamic. Priorities change all the time. Also, we've all had days where we say to ourselves, oh my gosh, I was busy all day and somehow I got nothing done. And we've all had days where we think to ourselves, oh my gosh, that was such a good day. I got so much done. And in both of those cases, we had 24 hours, right? No more time on the good day than on the bad day. So not having enough time is not our problem. I think today, our problem is that we have too many distractions. And you can't solve a distraction problem with a time solution. If I could magically give you 26 or 28 or 30 hours in a day, but you still spent it switching what you were doing every minute or two, you wouldn't get any more done and it wouldn't get done any better, right? Because the research shows when we switch what we're doing all day long, which most of us do, about every 2 minutes during our workday, according to the research, everything we do takes longer and the quality is lower. So if I could give you 28 hours in a day, but you still spent it switching what you were doing every minute or two, you wouldn't get any more done and it wouldn't get done any better. The antidote to distraction is attention. And so we need to abandon the idea of time management and we need to replace it, in my opinion, with the idea of attention management, because how you manage your time does not matter unless you also manage your attention.
Yeah. It's so true, Mara. I think we have this problem in our society where attention is just being pulled everywhere. And if we aren't intentional, then we are just at the mercy of whatever the stimuli is in our environment that pulls us from one thing to the next to the next. Like the way systems are created, it is to pull your attention. That's what your inbox does. Every single email pulls your attention. Your cell phone, every single notification is pulling your attention. So, what are the ways in which you recommend people to cultivate better attention management?
Yeah. I mean, we have to recognize that attention is the most valuable commodity on the planet now. It is we have our attention has been monetized to such an extent that it has become the thing that powers the economy. The biggest companies in the world are attention merchants, right? Their product is attention. And their profit depends on attention. So we truly are being manipulated to, and I don't say this to stoke fear or to make anybody angry. It's just like in the industrial age, labor was divided into units so that it could be monetized. The attention age, our attention is divided into units and monetized. And so we have to recognize that our attention is serving the profit of organizations. And so it is in their best interest to steal our attention or to keep us scrolling or to keep us reacting.
Yeah.
And so we have had created in us a habit of distraction. And that habit has been created in us on purpose, for profit, for someone else's profit. And so it's just, right, it's not, again, it's not about fear or anger. It's just about this is what it is. And so I am a big fan of technology, but we need to use our technology in a way that is serving us. And so, because we're really sort of sinking into this world of like scroll zombies, right? When you go anywhere now out in public and look around, everybody's just got their head in their phone, right? There's not a lot of chit chatting. There's not a lot of meeting people. There's not a lot of like, what a beautiful day it is. There's none of that. Everybody is just scrolling their devices. And so Um, so that's really not a world I want to live in. And what's even worse about it is that it sort of propagates itself, because 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 when we think about, so I encourage people, like, what else could you be doing, or how can you be experiencing the world that you're physically in, instead of the world inside your device. And I think for a lot of people, our tendency, maybe we don't want to admit it, but I think deep down, a lot of us are feeling like, I don't really want to talk to anybody. This is so convenient. Then I don't have to talk to anybody. Then I can just like do my thing and I don't have to talk to anyone. But part of the reason that we feel that way is because we have become habituated to feel to be comfortable scrolling our devices instead of being in the world around us, right?
Yeah.
And so when we do something different, we move outside our comfort zone. So therefore, by its very definition, it is uncomfortable.
Right.
And so it just propagates on itself. And and so that's why I feel like we're just being sucked down into this world of scroll zombies where nobody talks to anybody. And if you think about even kids, right? They're growing up challenged by interpersonal skills because they don't need to talk to humans very much anymore. Like they play video games online. They're isolated, right? They're playing with other people online, but they're not speaking to humans. They're not interacting with humans in a human way. They're interacting through machines. And
Yeah.
so then they're losing all of these skills. And I mean, everybody's talking about how the most important thing in the world of AI is the human skills that AI can't do. Those are relationships. But yet our phones are enticing us into losing our skills at relationships.
Yeah.
And so it just keeps pulling us down and pulling us down and pulling us down. And so, I mean, the advice, how do we do this, which is what started this, the question that started this thing. I mean, it's not revolutionary. We just need to we need to recognize how our devices are controlling us and regain some
Yeah.
of that control. The way that we do that is to control our devices, right? So there's so many there's so many ways that we are being enticed on purpose, right? The behavioral science and the neuroscience that's pulling us in. We need to recognize that, right? The notifications that somebody just liked your LinkedIn post is not there for your benefit. It is there to bring you back into LinkedIn. Really? Who is it? What did they say? Is it somebody I know? Like, what is that about, right? They're manipulating how we behave. And so turning off all of those notifications, it's not revolutionary and everybody's heard it a million times. But until you do it, you really don't realize how much pull it truly has, because that has become the default behavior for most people. It's like any pause of activity. All right, I just finished that thing, or I just got out of that meeting, or I just got back in my car. How often do you see people now sitting in their car in the parking lot,
Oh
in
my
their
God.
parking space? They're just sitting there, and it's because, well, that just ended, so now I have to go onto my phone and look at all the notifications I got while I was just in the gym doing my workout, and I have to read all of those and I have to clear all of those before I can go do anything else.
Yeah, and you're the car that's
Wait.
waiting for the spot for them to reverse, and you're like, when are you gonna leave? You know what I mean? But I appreciate how you framed it, which was, let's not let this be fueled by anger and fear. Like, it's not that.
No.
It's the reality. And we have to look at the reality of things. This is objectively what it is. So we don't want to like get mad at the social media companies and cell phone. They're doing what they're doing for their profits. Hey, by all means, you can do that. I don't have to be your product though, right? Which is, I heard this once, and maybe you've heard it too. If anything that you're spending time on in like a social media platform is free, you are the product.
That's right. That's right. And yeah, and to your point, I grew up in Boston, and in Boston we say, don't hate the player, hate the game. Right? Like, this is just
But you don't have to play the game. That's the good news,
that's
right? Like, that's a choice that you're making, whether you're aware of it or not. And you're right. It's not revolutionary to go through your notifications and change them, but it's amazing to me how few people actually do that.
Right. That's right. And we
Yeah.
and we tell ourselves that either we have to or we want to, right? And I understand that you can't just ask yourself, like, do I want to be doing this? Because sure, looking at, cute puppies on Instagram reels is super fun. Like, sure, I want to be doing this. So that's not the right question. It's more about, like, what else could I be doing?
Yeah. Well, it's to your point, people who have the tendency to pull those things up, the reality is there's something there that they're getting that they're not willing to immediately let go of, that they're not even acknowledging, right? Which is the dopamine rush that you get from novelty when you check that LinkedIn notification of that like. It actually feels good. So what we're saying here more is we have to train ourselves to delay that gratification so that we cultivate that attention, that ability to decide on what we're paying attention to.
Yes. And we need to recognize that it is hard to, well, it is easy to just sit and scroll social media for
Yeah.
hours in the evening. It is harder to organize a game night or invite some friends over or find somewhere to go and something to do and somebody to go with, or I mean, sometimes it even feels harder to, like, call a friend than it does to just sit there and scroll on my phone. This is easier. I can see what's going on with her on her feed. I don't really need to call her because what if she's busy? And I mean, we haven't talked in a while, so it's going to be like hours, and I don't have that much time. And so we have all of these things. It is so easy to just sit and scroll it's much easier to do that than to do literally anything else. And
So true.
so it's very easy to rationalize why this is why I do it.
Yeah. And I think there needs to be then a way to break the pattern, right? It's a pattern, a cycle that we go down. And I know that we could maybe touch on Dina's story here a little bit. For her, she's always on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, which is somewhat similar, right? Which is like, she gets her work and then it's the next email and then she has some other hobbies and she's doing this and she's doing that. So talk to me about how to the high performing person, the person who wants to do everything, right? Where do you start with someone like that? Someone like Dina who's like, "Hey, I have so many passions. There are so many things that I want to do, and then I feel so drained at the end of the day because I was trying to do everything." Where do you start with someone like that?
Well, I mean, it depends, right? If Dina is fueling all her passions and she's spending time with her family and she's sleeping well and she's finding time to exercise and she eats healthy, I would say Dina's got no problems, right? I mean, that's a full active life. Good for her. She's doing all the things she wants to do. um if her lifestyle is causing problems in primarily relationships or in her physical well-being, right? She is doing everything and she's doing everything at the expense of time with her family, sleep, exercise, healthy eating, taking care of herself, and she's just kind of running herself into the ground. Then that is the problem. And I think one of the things that I saw in Dina's story, it seemed like maybe um, when we objectively look, or when someone else objectively kind of observes our lives, it seems in some cases like we are behaving in a way that indicates that we want to be really great professionals, really great career people. And we're okay with being sort of mediocre parents and friends and partners and spouses because work is important and work is socially acceptable and work is, everybody understands that we have to work and we have to advance our careers and we have to keep up all these responsibilities. And my family understands if I work too much. And my family understands if I miss dinner. And my family understands if I can't go with them to the beach on the weekend or whatever. And, to a certain extent, they do. But if you want to be at least as good a partner or a parent or a friend or a daughter or an aunt or whatever it is you want to be, right? If you want to be at least as good as that, as you are at your career, then maybe looking at whether or not your time reflects that would be a useful exercise.
That's an interesting frame. I feel like I should be asking people that. Right? Yeah. Like, are you okay with being a high performing, high achieving professional and a mediocre parent? Because most people are not going to say yes to that. Right? Most people are going to say, I want to have both. And I like that you're framing it this way, because it forces then the person to be able to really acknowledge that, you know what, I'm not showing up at my very best in this one area of life, yet I tell people that it's the most important thing in my life.
Yes. And also, the other thing that we do is sometimes we do want to be a great parent and we do want to be a great professional, and our time reflects that, and we run our bodies into the ground in the pursuit of that. So that is the classic, like, put your oxygen mask on first, right? Because you can't be a good, right? Eventually that's all going to catch up with you. And so then we think, like, I can sleep when I'm dead, and I, hustle culture, and this is how it is. And, I have such a full and exciting life, and, it'll all be fine, even though, like, my back is killing me and I get headaches all the time, and, like, my digestion isn't very good and I don't sleep, but that's fine. That's no problem. I can deal with that. Right. Well, you can until you can't.
Right. Until it leads to such a big problem to where you end up in a hospital, or where you have to then prioritize your health because you don't have another option. So what do you say to someone? And we talked a little bit before the recording about how Dina is based on a real person. And I remember the person who I'm referring to here alluding to the fact that she's just wired this way.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, there are people who are truly just, I hate to use the word addicted because words have power, but if I just at least use the colloquial definition, right? They're addicted to the cycle, to the constant go, go, go. But honestly, right, you and I, Jay, are professionals. We know you can only help somebody who wants help. And so if I couldn't help Dina unless Dina says, this is a problem for me. I need to fix this. Will you help me? Right. But but the people who are like, this is great. This is, I'm flying high and I'm doing all these things and this is great. And I have, like, my life is go, 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 go. And I don't need you to tell me that I shouldn't, that multitasking isn't good for me, or that, staying up late and getting up early and checking email in the middle of the night isn't good for me. I don't need to hear that from you, or I don't need to hear from you that, social media is affecting my decisions or my emotions or whatever. And if that's how you feel, power to you, right? I'm not here to convince you otherwise.
Yeah. But you're right. The person has to be at least open, because what's really behind that I'm just wired this way is a belief.
Yeah.
It's a belief that you can't change. Just this morning, I went to the gym with my wife, Alex. And when I was there, I listened to audio often. And I'm listening to this audiobook of Wayne Dyer. And Wayne Dyer, for anyone who doesn't know, was an incredible author. He passed away, of course, but he was amazing. And it's a workshop where he's talking to this woman and you hear the exchange, right? And the woman is just refusing to believe that she can change. Like, she's just like, this is the way I am. She's just refusing and he's trying. He's asking her all these different questions. And I paused the video and I paused the audio and I said to myself, what he needs to be asking her then is, why are you here?
Right.
Like, why are you at this workshop? Like, if you don't think you can change, why did you come here? Why did you pay a ticket? Like, in other words, for the people who would be like seeking out help, like, why are we having this conversation right now to help them to realize, like, your belief is blocking you?
Yes. And also, there's a phrase, there's a saying, I'm probably going to butcher it, and I should know who said it, but unfortunately I don't. But it's hard to get somebody to believe something when their livelihood depends on them not believing it.
So you're saying the belief is one that they are holding on to because it serves
them in some way.
It serves them, and at a deeper level, it's how they're staying alive. Like, they believe it's part of it's a survival thing.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Or yes. Or if I admit X, then I have to admit Y, and I don't want to admit Y.
Yeah.
Or I can't admit X.
Yeah. I think this is so great, because just breaking through those beliefs is so important. And Dina, in this story, I think that's a big part of her problem, is that she just believes she needs to keep being like this.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, okay, so we help her to break the belief a little bit. What are some other things that you think would help her to stop this cycle? Like, what would you recommend for her?
Yeah, I mean, so here's another thing, and this goes to the principles of behavior change, right? And I alluded to this earlier, when we are used to behaving in a certain way, behaving in that way feels right. It feels comfortable. It feels like this is what works for me, right? And so when we try to change a behavior that has become comfortable, which is a habit, right? Habits are comfortable. When we try to change a behavior that has become comfortable, it is by definition uncomfortable. And so then it's very easy for us to say, this doesn't work for me, right? But what I try to make people understand as they're changing their workflow habits, the way they operate, the habits around the way they operate, is that when you hit that point, and you will, with some behavior, probably many behaviors. One behavior that I talk to people a lot about is listening to music while you work, or even worse, like a book or a podcast while you work. Music with words is a cognitive activity, right? Hearing words is a cognitive activity. And if your work is also a cognitive activity, right? If you're reading things or doing numbers while you are working and you're hearing these other words, that means you are forcing your brain to switch between the words that you're hearing, whether it's musical or spoken, in the words involved in the work that you're trying to do. So you're switching back and forth. You're multitasking, right? You're trying to do two cognitive activities at the same time, which is not possible. So because it's not possible, you can't hear every word and focus fully on the words on the screen, right? So you're switching back and forth between the two, which means everything you're doing takes longer, which means the quality is going to be lower, which means you could be much more efficient if you didn't do that. But so back to the point here, when I suggest to people try instrumental music or white noise or silence, they say to me something like, oh, that just doesn't feel right. That doesn't work. Right. That doesn't work for me.
Right? Good. Right. If it doesn't feel right, good.
Exactly. And so that's what I try to teach people in any kind of behavior change. When you hit that feeling, this doesn't feel right, that is not when you should give up and go back to the old way. That is when you should say, oh my gosh, it must be working. Right?
I love it.
That is how you know you are succeeding. When you run into that wall where you're like, ugh, this is hard and it's obviously not efficient and it doesn't feel right. That is when you should pat yourself on the back that you're doing it right.
I love that. That's so powerful. And I'm taking in what you're saying. I could tell you that in the instances where I'm listening to music that does have words, if it's I notice this in myself, if it's a task that doesn't require me to have to use some cognitive ability. So for example, it's like really rudimental, it's like copy paste type stuff. It's not like I have to do some, then it's fine. But I notice, and just this conversation is making me realize it, I pause the music when I have to then write an email because my mind goes, this is too much.
Well, and think about this. How many times do you turn down the radio when you're lost? Right? When you're driving in the car and you realize
So
you're
true.
lost and you turn down the radio. Or if you're on the phone, then you have to go, "Oh, hey, can I call you back? Let me call you back," right? I got to figure out where
Yeah.
I am, right? Because as long as the thing you're doing involves muscle memory, if it's a physical activity that involves muscle memory, then the music actually supports that. But if you need cognitive abilities to do the thing, so here's a perfect example. A surgeon told me this once. An experienced surgeon who's done the same, and their specialty now, right? They've done the same surgery a million times. An experienced surgeon likes to have their favorite music in the operating room. Not all, but some, right? Because the surgery that they're doing, well, of course, there is a cognitive piece. It is for them, it is so much muscle memory that the music actually stimulates the muscle memory. But the new surgeon is going to have a problem. If this is the first or the second or the fifth time they did this surgery, that music is going to cause difficulty for them because they really have to think about what they're doing because it's not muscle memory yet. So
That makes
that's the
sense.
way to keep it
And
in mind. Like if you're doing a hobby, if you're woodworking or building something, music is great
yeah.
because you're occupying your hands and it's just muscle memory. But if you need your brain to help you concentrate, then the music is going to distract you.
Yeah. And I assume with the surgeons, their favorite song ends up being an association that the mind creates between that song and an effective surgery. So that, in other words, there's a pairing of it in some way.
It can be, or it just elevates their mood. It sort of gets them
Yeah.
in the groove. It makes them feel like, oh yeah, this is how we do this, right? This is how this goes. We've done this a million times, and it's just sort of engaging the muscle memory um, that is supportive in a way that if they need to really think about it, it's a challenge.
Yeah. So what I want to always make sure that we have time for in one of these conversations that we have in regards to a story, in this case, Dina, is I want to ask you if you were to have met this person, let's say you meet Dina. Let's say she attends one of your programs, one of your workshops, and she's like so inspired and she feels like she gets a lot from it. And she comes up to you afterwards and she tells you her story, Maura, and she tells you what she's going through, and you listen, you have a moment there to take it in, and then to ask her a question or a few questions even to help get her through, help her get unstuck. What would you ask her, Maura?
Yeah, well, as we've discussed, right, the first question needs to be, do you want help? Do you believe that some part of the way you're living is causing problems in your life in some way, right?
Yeah.
And uh, and if so, are you open to the idea that you could achieve the same or greater levels of productivity and success at a lower cost to you personally? Do you believe that's possible? Right? Because as we've discussed, those are the two things that need to be present for any changes. But then, I mean, then we just sort of go into the whole process, right? Like what is the biggest challenge? Is it distraction? Is it distraction? Is it tasks? Is it because people have so many different problems, right? It's like part of my problem is that I have so much to do I don't even know where to start. Or I get 200 emails a day and so I don't have time to do anything else. Or I have back to back to back to back meetings all day and so the only time I can do my work is at night. Or um, I manage a team and they need me all day. And so I have to help them during the day and then I have to do my work at night, right? So then we just sort of figure out like where is the biggest problem occurring, and we tackle that. But I will also say that I created my system in a way that each section builds upon the next. So the three primary things are, we talk about distraction, right? I'm distracted all day. I get interrupted all day long, whether it's the pings, the dings, or the physical drop-ins. Do you have a minute? And so I can't get any work done. So we have to talk about attention management. But then once you learn to manage your attention, then it's like, but I have so many things to do, I don't even know where to start, right? So then it's like, I have stuff I have to do on my calendar in appointments with myself, right? I have sticky notes, I have legal pads, I have dry erase boards, I've flagged emails, I have, all the things all over the place. I don't even know where to start. Well, that's action or task management. And then once we get a handle on that, it's like, okay, but so many of the tasks that I have to manage live in my inbox. I have, 2,742 unread messages. Well, that's communication management. And so each one sort of builds on the next. And those three pieces make up the core of the empowered productivity system that I teach. Those are the behavior components. Then we have implementation components, which is usually the organizational piece.
Yeah, I love it. And for anyone listening, you can learn more about the empowered productivity system that Maura has out there through her website. And I know that on your website, there's a place for a free assessment where someone can kind of take inventory of where to start and then figure out some next steps. And you have some great resources there right on the website. For anyone listening, it's maurathomas.com/productivity-assessment. And is there anything there that you think would also be important for them to know about, and before they even go onto that site, anything else they'll get from that?
Yeah, so many people have told me, I thought I was so much better at this than clearly I am. Because the first thing is like, how would you rate your kind of workflow management or your own productivity on a range? How would you rate it? And you get a number, and then you go through the assessment, and then it gives you a result. And for most people, their own assessment does not match their grade from the assessment. It's like, oh, and as you go through the questions, you're like, oh, I never even thought to consider that, right?
Yeah.
So it's most people are finding it kind of eye-opening.
I think I'm gonna take it because I want to personally get a sense of how I can be more productive and more effective. And so anyone listening, again, it's maurathomas.com/productivity-assessment. I'll put the link in the show notes for everyone as well. And Maura, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day, but I also want to thank you for rescheduling this recording with me. So you practice what you preach, because I told you at the initial recording that I was really busy, I had a lot going on, and you offered to reschedule this, which I thought was really kind, to give me that kind of grace. So you are living the example of helping others to be able to have that time away, to disconnect and do things at a more healthy pace. So I appreciate you for that. And thank you for taking the time today.
Of course. Happy to help. Thanks, Jay.
A few days after I recorded this conversation with Maura, I quoted her during a workshop. And Maura, if you're listening, I gave you the credit for it, about time management versus attention management. That's going to be one of our insights, of course. And I get so much value out of reframing how I engage in my work and the time I have with my family when I'm thinking about where is my attention, not how I'm just spending my time. So let's get into it. 3 insights, 3 actionable takeaways from our conversation. The first insight: notice the resistance. She used the word spicy. If you're feeling spicy about your work, irritated, frustrated, annoyed, then I think that's a sign for you that you need to take a break. You need to be able to step away, because you can't really improve something that you're not able to step away from. You need to step away from something in order to be able to figure out what's wrong, how to improve it. The second insight: you don't manage time, you manage your attention. How are you intentionally focusing your attention? What is it on? And that is ultimately what you're deeming as most important. If you're spending your attention or focusing your attention on just work and not family, then even if you disagree with it, that your values are your family first, you're deeming it more important. So take inventory of how you're focusing your attention and what you're focusing on. Third insight, I'm going to read this one word for word. It's hard to get somebody to believe something when their livelihood depends on them not believing it. How powerful is that? Your livelihood, if you're telling yourself, I need to keep believing this, I need this thought in order to survive, that's what your subconscious is saying. You need to address that directly. You're not going to change behavior. You're not going to be able to buy into something new if your belief system suggests that you need to keep believing this in order to be okay. So that requires some work if it's holding you back. Actionable takeaways, first of three. Number one, 38 to 45 hours a week is the optimal amount of time to work. After that, there are diminishing returns, according to the research. Second, actionable takeaway, control your devices or they will control you. There are attention merchants out there. All they're trying to do is pull your attention. And if you don't have a safeguard against it, then they will decide on where your attention goes. So when you look at your phone, are you getting a million notifications? And if so, are they that important to you? Do you need those distractions? Take a moment and go through them. Take a moment and go through your notifications and remove the ones that you don't need. And I'd say this too, it's easier for things to be in default. It's easier for you to just keep looking at your phone. It's harder to put your phone away and plan going out with friends, to go out for a walk. That's the harder thing to do. And in life, doing the harder things is what's going to yield you better results. And our third actionable takeaway, be strategic with music. I got a lot of value out of this. So often I've been listening to music and I realize how it could be difficult for me because now I understand there's a cognitive process going on when I'm listening to music with words, as well as if I'm writing an email. So if I'm doing something that requires a cognitive functioning, I need to go with music that doesn't have words. But if I'm doing something that has more muscle memory, where it's kind of just going through the motions, then it's okay to have music with words. And this might sound simple, but this can really affect your productivity. So often people are listening to music, but they're doing so without considering how it's affecting how they're showing up and their effectiveness. So next episode, Friday, I thought we can get into some practical strategies on how to reclaim your attention. What are some levers that you can pull to gain more focus, to not be so pulled in every direction? What are some ways that you can integrate practices into your day so that you have the power over your attention? We're going to go through 5 specific strategies, not overly complicated. Anyone can do them, and you can decide of those 5 which work for you. So, until next time, thank you so much for listening.